So first of all, thanks to everyone for organizing this webinar series and for inviting me. And thanks to everyone, all the participants for joining for the meeting and finding the time. So I will start my presentation, which is based on the topic of human-robot interaction. So I'm not sure how how much each of you is like aware of this field because it's kind of a pretty new field in research also. So we'll keep things simple, like without getting too much into technical details. I'll describe my research contributions and also mention like what are the scopes or what are the trends in this field and what will be uh, the methods to get into this domain. So I will now switch to the presentation mode. I hope everyone can hear me well. If there is any problem, please let me know in the chat. Okay, perfect. So as I told you, the topic of my research is human-robot interaction, and it is a very diverse field which is not just technical in the sense it also has uh, a human side of the technology. So it's not about just building like algorithms or like building robots. It's also about thinking about the people who are going to use it. So we can say that this is a domain where robots are meeting the people. So it is very relevant because we have been hearing about robots for a long time. But if you look at the reality, like we don't actually have a robot in your daily life, and it's quite difficult to have to even to imagine such an interaction on a daily basis. So it still remains as a future in many of our lives, and thus it needs a lot of research and input like thoughts to make this into a reality. So in this field of human robot interaction, we are looking at the practical side of the technology and how to integrate it with our lives in a better way. So first of all, just look at the like the simple definition of the field of HRI. Um, I hope everyone can see the presentation and the audio is also clear. So if there is any problem, just let me know in the chat. So if you look at the domain of HRI, it's a multidisciplinary field where you have components from human-computer interaction, artificial intelligence, robotics, natural language understanding, design, humanities and social sciences, psychology, etc. So it has a lot of components which is very rich in the technical side as well as in the daily life or the human side. So even if you look at the field of robotics, it's very rich and diverse because when you build a robot, you need to have knowledge from mechanical engineering. You need to have understanding of electronics, electrical engineering. You need to know how to code the robot. So you need to understand how to program your robot. So this is like a mix of all these skills, and which is also much more closer to the real life. So, as I said earlier, we are not just building technology and running it in your like computer screens. We are actually taking this technology and making it integrate into the daily life of our people. So. We need to think of the human side also when you are designing this technology. So that is a crux of this field of human robot interaction. And so if you look at the robots, like the state of robots, we have diverse application for the technology. So we have robots that are used in healthcare, like to care people in hospitals or in old age homes. We have robots which can teach people or which can play with people. And so in a general sense, we can say that you have these three situations. So that is when you have a robot, it can coexist in your environment, such as like it is performing something like, for example, if you have a room cleaning robot, it is just coexisting in your environment and it's just doing the job of cleaning your floor. So that is one possibility. And in the next case, there is a cooperation. So suppose you have a task to do, and a task, like a part of the task is completed by a robot. So think of an assembly line. So you have a robot that does the packaging of a product, and you are just transporting it. So in that way, it's kind of a cooperation. So it's like you're splitting the job into with the robot. And you also have the case of collaboration where you are working with the robot at the same time. So suppose you want to build something, so you are actually interacting with the robot in the real time to accomplish a task. So these are the different kind of possibilities we have in human robot interaction. So why this field is actually relevant? So for that we have to think about the evolution of even the concept of robots. So as Sharika said earlier, the term of robot has actually started from a long time, and it has developed from science fiction, or like from a play, like a play called which is a Czech play. And in that, the concept of robot was like a mechanical laborer. So it's like a slave to the human. So that was a concept which was prominent in the beginning of this idea. And it was also inspired by the concept of automatons, which are like the human-like machines that can be, uh, which works by the process of like gears or like motors and like that. So these were kind of puppets. They used to be presented as like human puppets, which are like mechanized. So we have different kinds of uh, images of a robot which we have heard and seen in a lot of movies and stories, and that has shaped our perception of and also the imagination of robots. So if you look at this picture, this is actually a movie which uh, has, I think it was released in like 1990s or something. And this one is quite special for me because that is the first movie I have seen which has a robot. So this is called Bicentennial Man. And later there are a lot of movies like iRobot, recent ones like Wall-E, like animation movies like Wall-E and Baymax. You should be like familiar with those. And we also have the Indian version of robots, which is Endiran. So I think like majority of the people are familiar with this concept of robot because of science fiction and also the kind of movies and stories we have heard over this time. So these movies mostly project the idea of a robot as a human. So, but we don't we also have robots which are not like humans. So, for example, in a factory floor or in a like in a automation, like in a car assembly floor, you have industrial robots which take care of the uh, jobs of assembly or painting of a car. So we have diverse kind of robots which does not actually look like human. So that is also a reality. So um, why like why social robots? So why do we need a robot which interacts with you, or talks with you, or behaves with you like a human? So if you look at these two pictures, I'm just asking you to think, like look at these pictures and just think which one you like more. So obviously, most people will be paying their attention more towards the robot in the right, which is the red colored robot. It's an industrial robot which has a face. So it has more anthropomorphic features, which means it it looks more like a human and behaves more like a human. So we humans have a tendency to associate life, or like to identify similar human-like qualities in machines. So the social robots, which have anthropomorphic features, they actually make use of this tendency of humans to establish a better connection. So, if you're asked to work with one of these robots, obviously most of the people would choose one which is more like friendly looking, and also one which is more like human looking, because it has eyes, it has arms, so you know how it will be behaving with you. while in the other case, you can see it only as a machine. So the the kind of trust that builds during the interaction is also very different. So if you look at the field of HRI, we can say that it is a, it's a mix of these three components. So you have robotics, you have concepts from the domain of design, which means like UI or user experience design, and you also have psychology factors, which looks at how the people perceive the robot and how the interaction or the relationship between the robot uh, develops over time. So, what are the factors, or how do the human think about the robot? So, this is kind of a summary of the field of HRI, or human robot interaction. So, now I will get to my contributions in this field. So if you look at my research, you have one more factor, which is education. So I'm a person who is more inclined towards using this technology in lives of people, with also like in the domain, specifically in the domain of education. So you have robotics, you have design. There are like psychology elements also, and now we are trying to integrate the domain of education to make use of this technology. So now I will just give a summary of the evolution of my research. So I started my BTech in electronics and communication. Then I did my MTech in robotics and automation. Then I worked as an intern for a robotics and AI hub in a company called as Ernst& Young, where I was developing a robot for classrooms. And then I started working as a research engineer and a UI UX designer at Amrita University, where I was able to work in the domains of virtual reality, haptics, and also in robotics. And then I went on to become a research fellow at a project called Animatas, which is funded by the European Union. And now, as a part of it, I am doing my PhD at Sorbonne University in Paris in the topic of modeling communicative behaviors for the different roles of pedagogical agents. So, pedagogical agents means uh, artificial agents like virtual characters or robots, which can be used in educational scenarios. So, now I will show you the first robot which I built. Okay. I'm not sure how many of you really believe that this is something which I built. So certainly not. I was just joking. Uh, so the first robot which I built was inspired by this one. So it was a line follower robot which we built during the first year of my engineering in BTech. So we had a competition for building a line follower robot which traces a line and completes the goal. But when we started making it, like we didn't have any skills on programming or like in mechanical design or anything. So what we actually did was far away from this, even this picture. We built a robot using these components, like two simple motors or like LEDs, and even for the chassis we used a CD drive. So this is how the reality is. So you don't actually building something like this, something like the first one. It takes a lot of effort and skill. So you basically start from here and then you want to get here. So that's the reality of robotics. So you start from here. That's my story. So by the time of my master's, then I went on to um, do more like human robot interaction based research, and I was able to design uh, a system for industrial robots. So basically, if you look at interactions with industrial robots, you have a mechanical arm which is performing a task of picking or like assembling something, and you have a human worker who is interacting with the robot. So in that case, there is an issue of safety. So The robot doesn't have enough perception of the human being in his environment. So there is a possibility that the robot can actually hit the human if it's not perceiving it in the right way. So basically, what I did was to sense the presence of human in the environment of the robot, and also make it more safer by providing the alert to the robot as well as for the human. So this was something which I have done during my masters, and was well received. And while working as a research engineer, I started working on technologies such as virtual reality, which is also a subset of the domain of human computer interaction. So basically, what we did was that we started designing learning environments in virtual reality. So in this case, what we did was to have assembly training. So the it was meant for the workers who wanted to learn bike maintenance. So we were teaching them how to repair a motorbike by teaching them the components of a bike and how to replace and manipulate each of the parts. So this was entirely done on virtual reality in a virtual environment, and we also compared it with a traditional tablet-based instruction, and we found like really good learning results while using the immersive learning environment. So another work which I've done in the field of human computer interaction was uh, it was a haptic simulator. So in factories there are different skills which the workers have to achieve. So for example, in a construction field, the workers are meant to, like, they have to do a job of bending the structural bars in a specific shape, and that needs the person to know how much pressure or like how much force he need to apply for not breaking the steel bar. So in that case, we have developed a haptic simulator which trains them to do the perfect shape uh, by introducing like different exercises for learning this skill. And we are also monitoring how how fast they are achieving the skill, and also we were giving different kinds of assistant to improve their performance. So this is basically a haptic simulator which trains the workers in an industrial floor.
Excuse me. It would be
Yes.
better if you can speak a bit more louder.
Okay. Am I audible better?
Okay, fine.
Okay. So next project which we have done as a research engineer in Amrita University was to develop a simple robot platform for human robot interaction studies. So this was inspired by the animation movie from Pixar, which is like, if you have seen the studio Pixar, you can see a small lamb which is jumping around in its logo. So inspired from that, we have went on to design a lamp which is more active in your environment and responds to your emotions, and uh, acts as a desk companion for you. So this was designed entirely by our team, and we have released the design for the researchers to use in their studies also. So here you can see how the design elements meet the robotics. So it makes the robot look much more interesting or like attractive, so that the user is more inspired to interact with the robot. And one of the really well received studies which I've done is uh, an HRI study which was done in a village in India. So this is the first study I mean, in I think in India, this is the first study which is done in the wild. I mean, in a village with a real robot. So usually, if you look at the human robot interaction research, it is mostly focused on developing countries and also in more educated or like more privileged populations. So this was an effort to see how people in a different section of society or in a developing world would respond to this kind of technology. So what we did was that uh, we designed a robot to carry water cans for the homes and villages, so that it can deliver water for their daily use. And this was an acceptance study to see how people would respond to it. And this came out with really good results, like a really interesting result, which I can talk more later. So this study actually gained a lot of attention in international media also, and it actually became a great force in um, helping us to achieve more attention towards introducing robots in developing countries. So this actually helped us to set up a workshop in the Roman conference, which was held in India last year, specifically focusing on the social robots and artificial agents for developing countries. So now I would say that because of these kind of works, we have more attention happening towards developing countries and also like diverse populations. So now I will just give a glimpse of the topic which I am working on, and the idea or the theory behind my current research work. So the topic of my PhD is on modeling communicative behaviors for different roles of pedagogical agents, and we are focusing on the concept of regulation in learning. So it means it is actually the case of being more aware of your own learning. That is, if you're learning something, you can have like two goals. That is, either you can maximize your performance or you can start like work towards achieving mastery on the topic which you're learning. So we need to find a balance between the performance and also the mastery goals to be a good learner. So regulation in learning means being more self-aware or like more self-critical about your own actions and performance during the learning. So we are trying to make use of the theory of self-regulated learning, in which a student is more aware of using self-assessment, goal setting, and learning strategies to reach a learning goal. So if you look at a learning environment, you can have different kinds of regulation elements. That is, you can have a teacher who is giving you external regulation support, or you can have another student, which is a peer, um, who is helping you with co-regulation, and that can complement to the self-regulation of the student while performing a task. So in general, it creates a theoretical model like called socially shared regulation, which is very relevant in having multi-agent interactions. So for this, we actually designed an activity, a learning activity based on the concept of fractions, by in which it involves building fractions with Lego blocks, and we are using this game, like a gamified setup, to integrate virtual agents and robots to the learning environment, and thus create an interaction which is more focused on the regulation of learning. So here the learner is supposed to be performing the game on fractions, and is going to be supported by a virtual agent who is a teacher, and also a robot who is a co-student. So that's the crux of the research which I am doing right now. So if you look at the field of HRI, like we have seen a lot of robots coming to the market, or we have seen a robots in movies or in our research environments. So, for example, if you look at the popular ones, I can see this is a robot called as Vector. um, which was actually designed by animators at Pixar, and it went on to become a huge hit in the beginning and gathered a lot of attention because of its cute gestures. Uh, and this is a robot called Baxter, which is used in industrial floors. So if you look closely, Baxter has a face. So when another worker is collaborating with this robot, it actually uh, look at the human and also gives him cues on where the robot is supposed to be moving the parts, or like it will communicate in a better way than a normal industrial robot. So in that way, Baxter gained a lot of attention. And the third one is a robot called Jibo. It was designed by a very eminent professor in human robot interaction called Cynthia Brazil from MIT. And it also gathered a lot of attention in the beginning and went on to become a huge hit in a crowdfunding platform. But if you look at the reality, there is a sad story that all these robots or the companies of all these robots have become like closed. It's a real question why this is happening. So this is precisely why we need to have more focus on the research in HRI, because not just having the technology or a good design um, means that the robot is going to be a hit in the reality, or it's going to be effective in the real life. So we also need to look at the interactions that are happening with these robots to make it more efficient or like more useful in our daily lives. So we need to have more research or more talent coming into this domain to make robots a reality in the future. So another interesting thing about human robot interaction as a field is that this actually gives us the possibility of designing better robots and also designing better people. So when when human beings actually interact with a robot, it actually reveals how people think or like how people behave. So when you look at an interaction between a human and a robot, it can actually predict or give signals on what that person is or what his perceptions about people or like his fellow beings are. It gives us a possibility of also making people better and influencing their behaviors. So that is the best thing which I see about this domain, and that's a real possibility. So if you look at the current pandemic crisis, we have lots of people who are confined to their homes and have very limited social interactions. So these are kind of situations where we actually need like artificial companions, or like we can actually make use of this technology to study and influence the behavior of people. So we can give support to people using this kind of technology, and because more people are adopting technology at this stage. For example, because of this pandemic, we know a lot of people have started using smartphones, or a lot of people have started using online classes or online meetings. So, like that, we can also make these people adopt the technology of robots and see how that influences people. And for that, it is also important to have the concept of empathy in design. So we 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 should not be just designing a robot for our technological satisfaction. We should be designing it with the human in the mind. So it should be a human centric design, and in that way only we can have the people resonate with what we are trying to do. So there is a real possibility of introducing robots in our homes, offices, or classrooms, and it's very interesting to see these kind of robots being adopted a lot in healthcare also, and in our daily lives and in like in the cases of restaurants. So. uh, in that way I can share one of my experience with the study which I have done. So I told you that human robot interaction studies can actually reveal a lot about people, right? So uh, in the study which we did in the villages, there is very interesting observation which came out. That is, uh, we were intending to help the villages on uh, the task of getting water. So basically, the people in this village had just one pipe to get water from, and there were like 15 families or 20 families in that village. So we thought we would just uh, give them a robot which carries a water for them, so that they don't have to carry the water on their heads. So it will be less effort for them. So we thought, okay, we have a technology, we are introducing it for the people who need some assistance. So we have a hypothesis that this will be accepted. But when we went on to actually implement this stuff, we saw people saying that, okay, we like your gesture, we find it quite useful, but we also need interaction within ourselves. Because if you look at that village, it was mostly the women in the village who want when go to collect the water. So when the robot came, they no longer have a situation in which they can do a random chit chat or like have interaction with their neighbors near the water pipe. So for that village as a community, even the task of collecting water, even though it is very difficult, they find it as a social activity. So people have this longing for social interaction. So if you introduce technology, that should be complementing this social interaction and not should not be disturbing the social fabric. So that is one observation which we found while doing this study. And another interesting stuff was about the perception of the robot. So this robot actually had a very prominent male voice, and it gave clear instructions in a very loud male voice. But when we asked about the robot to the people, they said the robot is female. So can anyone guess why the people perceived the robot as a female? So I will tell you the answer. It's they said it's a female because they thought the task of carrying the water is supposed to be done by water. Yeah, exactly. So they said it's a female because this task was supposed to be done by women. So it actually shows the gender, no, yeah, the disparities or like gender stereotypes which are in our society. So in that way, i- we can get a reflection of people from these kind of human robot interaction studies, and also we can influence the behavior of people using robots. For example, this the Pepe, the robotic lamp robot which we designed, we later adapted it to teach children in schools about the value of hand washing. So we had a hand washing area in a school, and we set up a robot which asks each student to do proper hand wash after the meals, and also tell him the value of hand washing. And we could see that over the time of like 1 week, the tendency of children to do a proper like careful hand wash actually increased. So this is a very evident uh, example of uh, how robots can influence behavior uh, of people, and also how robots can actually reveal the qualities or like perceptions of the people. So I will talk a little bit about the consortium which I am involved with. So it is called Animatas, and it is a European Union funded project which is aiming at giving the researchers necessary skills and experience for uh, a career in human robot interaction and also in human computer interaction. So we have in this consortium 12 universities and 6 companies across 8 countries in Europe, and they have funded like 15 PhD students from across the world. So we have at least one student from each continent, and the good news is that uh, if you look at the participation of women in technology, especially in the fields of AI or robotics, it's very less at this stage. But in our project, out of this 15 PhD students, like 9 of them are are women. So uh, we are also ensuring a good gender equality in the PhD in the research world also. So for more details, you can visit the website www.animatas.eu and see the works which we have done and also get more information about the project. So now I will give some tips for like getting into the HRA and what are the right places to look for. So we have a very comprehensive website called humanrobotinteraction.org where you can uh, get access to articles or like podcast based on human robot interaction. So I would strongly uh, suggest you to listen to these podcasts. There's a very recent podcast which happened last week, and it was about how social robots, how and why social robots are continually failing in the market. So I told you about the robot Vector and also Jibo and Baxter. So in spite of being really good at technology, why these robots are not being a great success? So I suggest you to listen to these podcasts and also follow the conferences such as Roman, HRI, ICRA, and IROS. So these are good platforms where you can see the trends in the field of HRI and also in robotics. And it's also very important that you develop your skills and be original in your ideas. So for the skills, I mean, for programming, you need to have a good understanding of Python, C++, or Java, and to create this kind of algorithms. And in hardware also, uh, having knowledge of like Raspberry Pi or Arduino uh, would really help for you to get started. And for developing human computer interaction experiments, I am actively using Unity 3D as a platform to generate game experiences. So there are a lot of skills which you can acquire, and especially at this time, I think it's quite easy to take a lot of online classes. You have uh, websites such as edX or Coursera where you have really good lessons on fundamentals of robotics and AI. And if you want to know about more PhD opportunities or like internship opportunities, you can subscribe to this mailing list at eurobotics.net. So you can get alerts on the positions which are open and see what is happening in this field of research. So it's a very active mailing list. You can also contact me at this email address if you have any queries. And this is our team. So we have a very vibrant team of engineers and psychologists at our institute. And if you have any queries, just let me know, and I'll be very happy to give you more information on how to proceed. Thanks.
Okay, now can you hear me? Can you hear me? Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, teacher. Yes, teacher.
Ah, okay, okay, fine. You can ask questions right now. Either you can put them in the chat box, or you can directly ask them, or you can message to 8075841629. Okay, so I've got a few questions as messages. Can I read them?
Okay, you can read the questions.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first question is, well, it's a very funny question. That is, whenever I ask Siri to tell a joke, she tells me some rubbish, and her jokes don't feel funny at all. Why can't it tell a good joke?
Yeah, I mean it's a reality. So if you look at the so this actually boils down to the question which I asked in the beginning of the talk. So why we have robots which are failing in the market? So one big reason behind that is because we have really high expectations about these technologies, which we have acquired from the stories or the movies which you have seen. So you always expect the robot or your assistant to perform in the best way. You know, you want them to answer all your questions, and you want them to uh, tell you a big joke. So, but telling a joke, even for a human being, it's difficult to craft a joke and tell it properly. So, but you want the robot to do that. Even the person who asked this question, he or she might not be able to crack a good joke if you ask him or that person to do that. Uh, so that high is our expectation on these technologies, and the real problem we have this issue is that we don't have a realistic uh, image of what a human robot interaction is. That is because we don't have much access to the robots or these kind of assistants. So the more people get to know about the real state or the real capabilities of the robot, we will be able to tone down their expectations in a more practical level and then deliver based on that. Of course, in this specific case, if you ask Siri or a Google Assistant about telling a joke, it's not like Siri is actually crafting the joke. It's mostly like a pre-scripted thing which Siri just repeats, and that pre-scripted thing was written by a human. So we need to get to that level where the AI is capable of interpreting the language and also coming up with the behavior such as like joke or like sarcasm. And to be frank, we have a lot long distance to go to achieve that. So I think the relevance of this question uh, brings to the point that we need to settle the expectations in a much more practical level uh, for people to interact it with uh, in a much more satisfying way.
Okay, before going to the next question, I would like to tell you a thing that, okay, we have got a feedback form there. So kindly
Mhm.
fill out that. Only then you get the e-certificates. Okay, that's a must. So all of you should fill out that e-certificate out there. Sorry, feedback form out there to get the e-certificate. So the next question is, റോബോട്ടുകൾക്ക് പൗരത്വം കൊടുക്കുന്നതിനെ എങ്ങനെ കാണുന്നു?
റോബോട്ടുകൾക്ക് പൗരത്വം, it has already happened, I think, with the Sophia robot. They had given citizenship. It's a Saudi citizenship, if I'm not wrong. Uh, so it's going to be an eventual reality, I think, because uh, uh, at this stage, I would say that personally, I think it's a gimmick. It doesn't actually matter much if that robot is a citizen or not. In case of Sophia, it was kind of a gimmick, and I know the people also who work for Sophia. So if you look into the future, you can see robots becoming more prominent in our societies, such as in the roles of, uh, for example, you can have a robot as a police officer or to enforce the law or to take some actions. So when you have a robot which is more intricated, like which is more woman close to the society, you have certain issues based on the actions of the robot. So just like how people are governed by the laws in a society, you will need to define a role for a robot. So I think in eventuality, or maybe in the future, uh, we will have to define the role of a robot in a society in a much more clearer way, and that might be uh, that might be like giving a citizenship and making the robot come into the the constitutional uh, liability, or like in that uh, bracket.
Well, we have a question from Abhiraj saying, so what kind of interactions did the Pixar inspired lamp that you modeled do?
Okay, so the Pixar inspired lamp was designed to understand the emotions of the person which is in front of the robot. So it basically had a camera which looks at the person, and it had a behavior of catching the attention or asking for attention. So the person was supposed to do a simple task of writing something in front of the robot, and based and the robot would be looking at the person and seeing how engaged or how frustrated the person is. So if the person is uh, seen as like sad or frustrated, then the robot would use its movements or its lamp colors to catch the attention of the human and make him kind of relaxed by these kind of gestures. So it was basically doing an emotional analysis based on computer vision, and doing some attention modeling. I hope I answered the question.
Well, the next question is, can robots read CAPTCHA codes? If they can, will that be a threat to cybersecurity?
Of course, there are algorithms which are capable of cracking CAPTCHA. That's why, I mean, in the past, we only had the CAPTCHA codes which are based on like just letters on an image. But now we have image CAPTCHAs where you're asked to, uh, spot specific items on an image on a grid basis. So uh, that means there are algorithms which are actually overcoming the word captures. And if you train enough, you will also be able to crack the image captures. So it's not a very hard thing to do, I would say.
ഓക്കെ നെക്സ്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് റോബോട്ടുകൾക്ക് ഡോർ തുറക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല എന്ന് കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. അത് ശരിയാണോ? എന്തുകൊണ്ട് പറ്റില്ല?
അത് ശരിയല്ല. എനിക്ക് so I'm not sure if you've heard of a robot called Spot. നമ്മൾ എനിക്കൊന്ന് യൂട്യൂബിലും സോഷ്യൽ മീഡിയയിലൊക്കെ ഭയങ്കര ഒരു കോൺട്രവേഴ്സി ടോപ്പിക് ആയൊരു കേസാണ് ഈ ബോസ്റ്റൺ ഡൈനാമിക്സ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു കമ്പനി ഉണ്ട്. സോ ഇറ്റ്സ് US ഡിഫൻസ് ഫണ്ടഡ് കമ്പനി ആയിരുന്നു. സോ അവര് ഫോർ മിലിറ്ററി ഗ്രൗണ്ട്സ് ഒക്കെ അവര് ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്ത ചില ആനിമൽ ലൈക്ക് റോബോട്ട്സ് ഉണ്ട്. നമ്മൾ കണ്ടു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഭയങ്കര സ്കെയറിയാണ്. ഇറ്റ് ലുക്സ് ലൈക്ക് സ്മോൾ ഡോഗ് ഓർ അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു ഷേപ്പിലൊക്കെ ഉള്ളതാണ്. സോ ആൻഡ് ഇറ്റ്സ് മൂവ്മെന്റ്സ് ആർ നോട്ട് ദാറ്റ് ഫ്രണ്ട്ലി. ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് ലൈക്ക് വെരി ക്യൂട്ട് ഓർ എനിത്തിങ്, ബട്ട് it's very capable of navigating in an unstructured environment such as mountains or ഭയങ്കര റബിൾ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള സിറ്റുവേഷൻസിലൊക്കെ നാവിഗേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി ഡിസൈൻ ചെയ്തതാണ്. സോ അങ്ങനത്തെ ഫ്രം ദാറ്റ് കമ്പനി there is a very recent robot called Spot, and it actually has a neck which has an arm. So ആ റോബോട്ട് നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇറ്റ് ക്യാൻ ഈസിലി ഓപ്പൺ എ ഡോർ ആൻഡ് ഹോൾഡ് ഇറ്റ് ആൻഡ് ജസ്റ്റ് ഗെറ്റ് ഇൻ. സോ യൂട്യൂബിൽ ഒന്ന് നോക്കിയാൽ മതി, സ്പോട്ട് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ റോബോട്ട് ഉണ്ട്. ഇറ്റ്സ് അത് സയൻസ് ഫിക്ഷൻ അല്ല, ദാറ്റ് ഹാസ് ബീൻ അച്ചീവ്ഡ്.
ഓക്കെ, അടുത്ത ചോദ്യം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് യുവാൻ നോ ഹരാരി തന്റെ പുസ്തകത്തിൽ പറയുന്നുണ്ട്, 50 വർഷങ്ങൾക്ക് ശേഷം മനുഷ്യരുടെ ജോലികൾ റോബോട്ടുകൾ ഏറ്റെടുത്ത് ചെയ്യുന്ന കാലം വരുമ്പോൾ തൊഴിലില്ലായ്മ ഒരു വലിയ പ്രശ്നമാകുമെന്ന് അങ്ങനെ സംഭവിക്കാൻ സാധ്യതയുണ്ടോ?
ഓക്കെ, ഇത് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത് ഇഫ് യു ലുക്ക് അറ്റ് ദിസ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ, I mean, it shows how people are more skeptical or worried about the future of robots. So, other threat, if you're seeing it as a threat, it will always haunt you. അതായത് നമ്മൾ അതിനെ ഒരു ഭീഷണിയായിട്ടാണ് കാണുന്നതെങ്കിൽ നമുക്കത് ഭയങ്കര പ്രശ്നമായിട്ട് തോന്നും. നമുക്ക് ഒരിക്കലും അതിനെ ഒരു പോസിറ്റീവ് രീതിയിൽ കാണാൻ പറ്റില്ല. ബട്ട് ഇഫ് യു തിങ്ക് ഓഫ് ഇറ്റ് ആസ് എ പോസിബിലിറ്റി, നമുക്ക് വി ക്യാൻ എക്സ്പ്ലോയിറ്റ് ഇറ്റ് ഇൻ എ ബെറ്റർ വേ. സോ നമ്മുടെ പാസ്റ്റിൽ നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാലും നമുക്ക് വി ഹാഡ് ദിസ് കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് സെയിം കൺസേൺ ടുവേർഡ്സ് കമ്പ്യൂട്ടേഴ്സ്. സോ നമ്മൾ കരുതി ഡ്യൂറിങ് അറ്റ്ലീസ്റ്റ് ലൈക്ക് ഒരു 30-40 years ago, most of the jobs in an office was done by people. So we had people who were maintaining records or like doing calculations, and computers vannappo this made things easy and we need less human labor. So അങ്ങനെ നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ all those people who have worked in such jobs, they have lost their jobs. പക്ഷേ ഇഫ് യു ലുക്ക് അറ്റ് ദി റിയാലിറ്റി, ഈ പറയുന്ന ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ആ ജോബ് പോയി എങ്കിലും they have adopted to newer jobs. So it's like when you have technology which is much more efficient in solving something, it only makes your life easier and makes you and gives you more possibilities. So അതുകൊണ്ട് because of that we have now a lot of other new jobs or new job domains which have been created by the impact of computer science. So the same will happen with robotics also. In like 30-40 years, we might not be doing the same jobs, but we will have new jobs. So അതുകൊണ്ട് it's not like someone is taking away your jobs. It's just that technology is getting better and you will have new jobs. അതാണ് എൻ്റെ ഒരു take on that topic. I don't see it as a threat. We should be using it as a possibility.
Okay, Sachin, well, you can ask your question.
Hi, Mr. Krishna. I have a question. It's actually about the sport by Boston Dynamics. The sport by Boston Dynamics actually has a battery life of near 30 minutes. So even though the sport can do many jobs like running around, hopping, and most of the other stuff like opening the door, but it's actually limited by the battery capacity that the sport carries. It's just 30 minutes. So do you actually expect that the sport has a future unless there's a breakthrough that happens in battery technology?
Okay, that's a very good question, and that is a reality also. Because if you look at most of the robots, a real concern is about how much its life is, or how much the battery actually lasts. So I have a robot here, like ഇത് ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ കാണിച്ച വെക്ടർ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന റോബോട്ടാണ്. So it has a battery life of like 15 minutes, even though it is just moving around in my desk. But അതിനൊരു ചാർജിങ് ഒരു പോർട്ട് ഉണ്ട്. So it's like whenever it is out of the charge, it will go and charge itself again. So എല്ലാ റോബോട്ട്സിനും അങ്ങനെ ഒരു പോസിബിലിറ്റി ഉണ്ടായിക്കോണമെന്നില്ല. So we really need to have an advancement in the battery technology. പക്ഷേ that will happen eventually only. Like a lot of research has been done in battery technology. അതായത് ഇപ്പം if you look at നമ്മുടെ സ്മാർട്ട് ഫോൺസ് നോക്കാന്ന് വിചാരിക്കാം. സോ ഒരു 5 കൊല്ലം മുമ്പ് we had a maximum of like 2500 mAh batteries in our phones, and it took almost like 2 hours for a phone to charge. So even അതിൽ കൂടുതൽ എടുത്ത ഫോൺസ് ഉണ്ട്. സോ പക്ഷെ ഇപ്പൊ നോക്കുവാണെങ്കിൽ എൻ്റെ ഈ ഫോൺ എനിക്ക് I can charge like എനിക്കൊരു 5000 mAh battery ഉണ്ട്. So it's like double of the capacity, and I can also charge it in a faster way. So there are technologies like fast charging or quick charging happening in smartphone. So ഈ ടെക്നോളജീസ് ആർ മേക്കിംഗ് എ ഗ്രേറ്റ് പ്രോഗ്രസ്. സോ 5 കൊല്ലം മുമ്പുള്ള ബാറ്ററി ടെക്നോളജി അല്ല ഇപ്പം. സോ ജസ്റ്റ് തിങ്ക് ഹൗ മച്ച് ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ബി ഇൻ ദ നെക്സ്റ്റ് 5 or 10 years. ആൻഡ് ബിക്കോസ് ഓഫ് ദി ഇന്നോവേഷൻസ് ആൻഡ് ഈ പറയുന്ന ഇലക്ട്രിക് കാർസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സോളാർ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ടെക്നോളജീസിൽ ഇപ്പോൾ ഒത്തിരി ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെന്റ്സ് വരുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് ഈ ബാറ്ററി ടെക്നോളജി ഈസ് ഇംപ്രൂവിംഗ് ലൈക്ക് ഇൻ എ വെരി ഫാസ്റ്റ് വേ. Even in Paris, like I know a lot of researchers who are exclusively working on lithium-ion batteries and new battery technologies. So this will eventually be, it will be transferred to robots also. So ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു 30 minutes life ഉള്ള റോബോട്ടിന് in the same size or capacity, it can have a longer life in the future. Maybe in the longer future Allah, I think it will be much better in the next 5 years or 10 years. I hope you answered the question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
ഓക്കെ, നെക്സ്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് സെൽഫ് ഡ്രൈവിംഗ് കാർസിനെ പറ്റിയാണ്. സെൽഫ് ഡ്രൈവിംഗ് കാർസ് ആക്സിഡന്റ് റേറ്റ് കുറയ്ക്കുകയാണോ കൂട്ടുകയാണോ ചെയ്യുക?
Okay, in case of self-driving car, okay, നമ്മളിപ്പം ഞാൻ പഠിച്ച M.Tech കോഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് it's robotics and automation. So if you look, I mean, ഈ പറയുന്ന രണ്ട് ഫീൽഡ്സും ഇറ്റ്സ് വെരി ഇന്റർ റിലേറ്റഡ്. അതായത് നമ്മളിപ്പം ഒരു റോബോട്ട് ഫോർ എ റോബോട്ട് ടു ആക്ച്വലി വർക്ക് ഇൻ ഇറ്റ്സ് ഫുൾ കപ്പാസിറ്റി, we need to have a really structured environment, because ഒരു ഭയങ്കര ക്ലട്ടേർഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഭയങ്കര ഡൈനാമിക്കലി ചേഞ്ചിങ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള എൻവയോൺമെന്റിൽ ഒരു റോബോട്ടിന് അതിന്റെ അത്ര എഫിഷ്യന്റ് ആയിട്ട് ചിലപ്പോൾ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റിയെന്ന് വരില്ല. സോ ഒരു റോബോട്ടിനെ നമ്മൾ ഇൻസ്റ്റാൾ ചെയ്യാണ് ഒരു ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു അസംബ്ലി ടാസ്കിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഒരു റോബോട്ട് വാങ്ങിയിട്ട് ഇഫ് യു ആർ ഇൻസ്റ്റാളിങ് ഇറ്റ്, വി നീഡ് ടു മേക്ക് ഷുവർ ദാറ്റ് the inputs to the robot are like optimized for its performance. So അതായത് അതിനൊരു അസംബ്ലി ലൈൻ ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കണം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ് ഷുഡ് ഹാവ് അതിന് വരുന്ന പാർട്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് ഷുഡ് ബി ഇൻ ദ കറക്റ്റ് പ്രൊപ്പോർഷൻ ഓർ ഇൻ ദ കറക്റ്റ് സൈസ്. സോ അതിൽ ഒത്തിരി വേരിയേഷൻസ് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ the efficiency of the robot will also be compromised. So for a robot to work, it needs a better automated or better designed setup. So ഓട്ടോമേഷൻ ആദ്യം സംഭവിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ മാത്രമേ ഒരു റോബോട്ടിക്സ് ഒരു ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയൽ റോബോട്ടിന് ഒരു പ്രോപ്പർ രീതിയിൽ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റൂ. ആൻഡ് ഇറ്റ്സ് ഓൾസോ ദ സെയിം വിത്ത് ദ കേസ് ഓഫ് ഇലക്ട്രിക് കാർസ്. സോ നമുക്ക് ഈ പറയുന്ന വളരെ അഡ്വാൻസ്ഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ടെസ്ല ഇലക്ട്രിക് കാർ, അത് നമ്മുടെ ഇന്ത്യൻ റോഡിൽ ഓടുന്നതിനെ പറ്റി നമുക്ക് അത്ര റിയലിസ്റ്റിക് ആയിട്ട് ചിന്തിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല, ബിക്കോസ് വി ഹാവ് എ ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് അൺസർട്ടനിറ്റീസ്. വി ഡോണ്ട് ഹാവ് ലൈക്ക് clearly defined paths, or we don't have traffic signals all the way, and we have people jumping around. We have ഈ പറയുന്ന ഓട്ടോറിക്ഷ ഒക്കെ എങ്ങനെ പോകുന്നുള്ളത് ചിലപ്പം കാറിന് മനസ്സിലായിന്ന് വരില്ല. സോ we need to have a structural, we need to define the infrastructure in a much more clearer way for these technologies to behave. So ആ ഒരു it will take time also. സോ അവിടെയാണ് ഈ പറയുന്ന ആക്സിഡന്റ് റേറ്റ്സ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇതിന്റെ മാൽ ഫങ്ഷൻസ് എത്രമാത്രം ഉണ്ടാവും എന്നുള്ളത് വരുന്നത്. ആൻഡ് ഇഫ് വി ഹാവ് എ ഗുഡ് എൻവയോൺമെന്റ്, ഇറ്റ് ഷുഡ് ബി എഫിഷ്യന്റ്, ആൻഡ് ഓൾസോ ദ കാർ ഇറ്റ് സെൽഫ് ലേൺസ് ഫ്രം എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ്. സോ ഈ പറയുന്ന ഇലക്ട്രിക് കാർസ് നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, സോ ഇഫ് അവര് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്ത ഫസ്റ്റ് ഇയറിൽ ദേ ഡോണ്ട് ഹാവ് ഇനഫ് ഡാറ്റ അബൌട്ട് how the roads are, or how pedestrians are responding, or how other cars are driving. So പക്ഷെ ഇപ്പൊ നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ from all these years they have collected a lot of information based on the travels done by these cars. So ഇതെല്ലാം they are using to train their algorithms. So over the time this will only get better, and the rates of accidents will come down if you have a really structured environment. So having a good infrastructure is also important, and having a good algorithm is also important. But eventually, it also has a real possibility of becoming a huge success.
Well, we have the next question from Abhirami P. Kumar. Sir, why do we implement artificial intelligence in the robots? And why do we use robots in the industry?
Okay, so for that we need to understand what artificial intelligence really means. So artificial intelligence is like we are trying to achieve certain human-like or intelligent qualities through like algorithms, or like through by enhancing the perception of the robot. So basically നമ്മൾ റോബോട്ട് നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ it has three systems. അതായത് ഒരു human being പോലെ തന്നെയാണ്. The robot has a perceptive system which can understand its surroundings. It has a cognitive system which can take decisions, and it also have a action system which can respond or act in the surroundings. So it's like ഒരു ക്യാമറയാണ് സെൻസറി സിസ്റ്റം എങ്കിൽ ഒരു the processor ആണ് അതിന്റെ brain. So that's a cognitive part. And ഒരു സപ്പോസ് ഒരു റോബോട്ടിന്റെ വീലാണ് അതിന്റെ action system വിചാരിക്കുക. So this is a basic composition of a robot, I would say. So ഈ പറയുന്ന cognitive പാർട്ടിന് for it to make use of this sensory inputs and act in a surrounding, it needs certain kind of logic or intelligence. So adine we are using certain algorithms or methods to emulate these kind of qualities. അവിടെയാണ് ആർട്ടിഫിഷ്യൽ ഇന്റലിജൻസിന്റെ ഒരു ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് വരുന്നത്. ബിക്കോസ് ഈ പറയുന്ന റോബോട്ട്സ് ഷുഡ് ബി അഡാപ്റ്റീവ് ഓർ റെസ്പോൺസീവ്. അല്ലാതെ നമുക്കിപ്പോ കാണുന്ന ഒരു എന്താ പറയാ, ഒരു സിമ്പിൾ ഒരു മെഷീൻ ഉണ്ടെന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുക. സോ ആ ഒരു മെഷീൻ, ഇഫ് ഇറ്റ്സ് എ മെക്കാനിക്കൽ മെഷീൻ, ഇറ്റ് ക്യാൻ do a very limited kind of jobs or manipulations. പക്ഷെ if we have more intelligence, then we can do more efficient and diverse kind of manipulations or jobs. So അവിടെയാണ് the need for artificial intelligence and also machine learning by learning from experience അത് ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത്. Why do we use robots in the industry? It's of course for more efficiency and because റോബോട്ട് ഒരിക്കലും ടയർഡ് അപ്പ് ആവുന്നില്ല. ഒരാള് നിന്ന് ഒരു 100 പാക്കേജിങ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ he will have fatigue, like ആള് ടയർഡ് ആവും. But robot doesn't get tired, so it can work all the way around. So that is the basic idea.
Hi, Mr. Krishna. I have another question. We actually had home automation in our apartment. We were able to control the climate and also turn on the lamp when someone enters the room. In your opinion, do we actually need anything more than that in a household?
Anything more than?
Yeah, anything more than the home automation systems that we currently have? Do we need anything more than that in a household?
Do we need anything more എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ I would say we will never like get satisfied in this kind of stuff. അതായത് ഇപ്പൊ നമുക്കൊരു if we have a smart lamp which turns on when it gets dark automatically, it's a good thing. പക്ഷെ അന്നേരം that is I mean you have understood the capability of the technology and ഒരു കാര്യത്തിൽ സാറ്റിസ്ഫൈഡ് ആയി കഴിയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും then your expectations get higher and your ambitions get higher, so you will actually want more. So next ഞാൻ ആലോചിക്കുന്നത് ഞാൻ റൂമിൽ കയറി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഉടനെ എൻ്റെ ഫാൻ ഓൺ ആവണമെന്നായിരിക്കും. സോ our human nature is to imagine more and also to demand more. So നമ്മുടെ നീഡ്സ് ഫുൾഫിൽ ആവുന്നതോട് ആയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ we will have more necessities or we will have more demands. So even in case of IoT അല്ലെങ്കിൽ home automation നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ there are like endless number of appliances which are actually getting smart. So നമുക്ക് ഈ പറയുന്ന ഫ്രിഡ്ജ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ even our door or like അവരുടെ lights, fan, like anything that can be integrated in a home can also be automated. ആ ഒരു പോസിബിലിറ്റിയിലേക്ക് things are actually progressing. So എനിക്ക് ലൈക്ക് എനിക്ക് എൻ്റെ റൂമിൽ ഒരു സ്മാർട്ട് ബൾബ് ഉണ്ട്. സോ അത് കൺട്രോൾ ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ഞാൻ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ആപ്പ് ഉണ്ട്. സോ ഐ വാസ് ജസ്റ്റ് ലുക്കിംഗ് അറ്റ് ഹൗ മെനി അപ്ലയൻസസ് ആർ ബീങ് സപ്പോർട്ടഡ് ഇൻ ദിസ്. ആൻഡ് ഇതിൽ നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അറിയാം, ലൈക്ക് ഇറ്റ്സ് ലൈക്ക് you have appliances for kitchen, you have systems for security, you have systems for your exercise and health, video surveillance, energy, entertainment. You can connect your TV or robots or book readers, സോ ഇറ്റ്സ് നമ്മൾക്ക് ഒരിക്കലും ഈ പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഡിമാൻഡ് കുറയില്ല. ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ഓൺലി ഇൻക്രീസ്.
Well, the next question is can MSc computer science students do research in robotics? How to get an internship abroad? Why which country is the best?
Okay. Regarding internships, I mean, for MSc in computer science, definitely there are possibilities for getting internships in robotics because uh, algorithms or like computer science is a very, it's a very important part of robotics. So there is a lot of possibilities. I can only talk like in detail about the opportunities in Europe because I'm uh, currently in Europe. If you look at institutes or research on robotics in Europe, you have a uh, lot of research going on, especially in the fields of deep learning, in computer vision, in natural language processing, uh, and recommendation systems. So and so you don't have a problem of not having a good institute or not having an opportunity. So it's only that you need to build up your skills and uh, try to see what domain you really have to work on. So എന്തിലാണ് നിങ്ങളുടെ സ്കിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് എന്തിലാണെന്നുള്ളത് ഐഡന്റിഫൈ ചെയ്യുക ആൻഡ് ദെൻ യു ക്യാൻ ഗോ ഹെഡ് ആൻഡ് ലുക്ക് അറ്റ് ദി ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട്സ് ഇൻ ഓർ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റീസ് ഇൻ യൂറോപ്പ്. സോ അതിന് ഭയങ്കര ഹെൽപ്ഫുൾ ആയിരിക്കും ഞാൻ ആ മെൻഷൻ ചെയ്ത mailing list. So it's called EU Robotics mailing list. So if you just go to their website and subscribe to EU Robotics EU Robotics mailing list subscribe either, you can get a lot of alerts on open internship positions. So they will initially ask you to provide your CV and a cover letter, and also some people may ask you to submit a research proposal, and then they will go ahead with an interview and give you a position. So that is usually the process here. And if you need any help regarding information about a certain institute or a professor or something, so you can always contact me.
Well, next question is can robots substitute teachers?
Okay, it's really a frequent question which I get asked a lot because my research is also in the field of education and also in designing artificial agents for educational environments. So what I would say is that the, you know for teachers, or whether it be teachers or whether it be doctors, you can't actually like replace any person entirely. It's like taking away a human is not easy because uh, for robots to get into the level of humans in terms of their sensory perception, or like in terms of their cognition, or in terms of their action, there is a long way to go. So even if we get there, it's really difficult to replace a human because human beings have they don't they bring up a lot of diverse qualities which are like very complex to emulate. So I would say it's the goal should not be to replace a teacher, or we should not be terming it as replacing a teacher, but it should be complementing a teacher. So for example, in the interaction which I am making, we are designing the robot to be a student, and in that way uh, we are collecting information about the person who is learning, or like the child, and that information is only being used to give more insight about the learner to the teacher. So eventually this is going to complement teaching or complement educational things to make things easier for the teacher. It's not meant to take away the teacher and put a robot in that place, and that won't work also. uh, So that is a more practical way of introducing and making use of the technology. It's not about eliminating something. It's always about complementing.
Well, the next question is why some robots are made male and others female? Like you said, വെള്ളം കോരുന്നത് സ്ത്രീകളുടെ മാത്രം ജോലിയായി കരുതുന്നത്.
That's a good question because I mean, as I told you, നമ്മുടെ designs അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ how we make use of the technology എന്നുള്ളത് reveals a lot about our society or like നമ്മുടെ stereotypes in a society. So അതിൽ നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ we can see this gender disparity a lot, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ racial discrimination അത് കാണാൻ പറ്റും. So it only reflects how we as a society behaves. So എന്തുകൊണ്ട് ചില റോബോട്ട്സ് ആർ ബീങ് ഡിസൈൻഡ് ആസ് വുമൺ എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ certain ഈ പറയുന്ന ചില ടാസ്കുകളിലേക്ക് we associate certain gender to certain task, and that stereotypes are not really thought of while designing these robots. So we also have like unisex robots which are like gender neutral in a way. പക്ഷേ mostly ഈ പറയുന്ന in the roles of assistants or like in the roles of servants, we have a tendency of associating it with women because we think that they're supposed to be behaving like that. ഞാൻ ആ പറഞ്ഞ വാട്ടർ ക്യാരിങ് റോബോട്ടിന്റെ സ്റ്റഡിയിൽ ഉണ്ടായ ഒരു ബിഗ് റിവലേഷനും അതാണ്. സോ വി നെവർ തോട്ട് വി വിൽ ഹാവ് സച്ച് എ ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് ഫ്രം ദം. പക്ഷേ ഇറ്റ് ആക്ച്വലി റിവീൽഡ് ഹൗ ദാറ്റ് സൊസൈറ്റി തിങ്സ് അബൌട്ട് വുമൻ. സോ അതിന് അവരെയും മോശം പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് കാര്യമില്ല. ഇറ്റ്സ് ഓൺലി ബിക്കോസ് like they have been taught through generations that women are supposed to do this. Even അവർക്ക് അതൊരു പ്രശ്നമായിട്ടും തോന്നുന്നില്ല. പക്ഷേ we should be more conscious about not encouraging these kind of stereotypes. So അതുകൊണ്ട് in the design, gender should be like taken care of in a very serious way, especially in this time. ഇപ്പം നമ്മൾ ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ നമ്മൾ വോയിസ് അസിസ്റ്റൻസ് നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ മോസ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ദ വോയിസ് അസിസ്റ്റൻസ് ആർ ഫീമെയിൽ. എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ്? സോ ദാറ്റ്സ് ബിക്കോസ് ലൈക്ക് in the past these jobs of assistants or secretaries was assigned to females. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു സ്റ്റെനോഗ്രാഫറിന്റെ job ഒക്കെ was stereotyped to females. So our stereotypes are still existing in the society. So ഈ പറയുന്ന ടെക്നോളജിയിൽ പോലും ഈ സ്റ്റീരിയോടൈപ്സ് വരാതെ നോക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഇറ്റ്സ് അവർ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റി. സോ ഇതിൽ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ഐ ക്യാൻ സജസ്റ്റ് എ വെരി ഗുഡ് പേപ്പർ ഫ്രം യുനെസ്കോ. It's called I would blush if I could just write it in the chat. So it actually talks a lot about the gender disparities or gender stereotypes in voice assistants. Okay.
Well,
I think it's
our next
almost
question
time.
is from Aromalayas. That's our final question. Okay. Sir, how should a robot solve a trolley problem?
Okay. Trolley problem. I mean, you can't really expect a robot to solve a trolley problem because it has a lot of ethical implications. So അത് ഒരു വലിയൊരു ചോദ്യമാണത്. It basically boils down to not just to this problem, but basically boils down to what should be the ethics of the robot. So if there is a conflict in the cognitive state, so what should be the priority? So ഒരു കേസിൽ ഇപ്പം if robot does an action, if suppose there is a case in which if robot is doing something, one person dies, and if the robot is doing the if not doing it, two people dies. So what should the robot choose between? So is it like one life is better than two life അങ്ങനെയാണോ, or one life is equal to two life അങ്ങനെയാണോ? So or that one life എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഒരു suppose that one life is a very prominent person or a very very highly ranked or like a very important individual. So അപ്പൊ അതിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ബാക്കി രണ്ടുപേരെ സാക്രിഫൈസ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. സോ ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള എത്തിക്കൽ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഉണ്ടാവുക എന്നുള്ളത് ഇറ്റ്സ് ഓൾസോ an eventuality. So basically അത് it only makes us more aware about the about the conflicts that can happen in the future. So I would say it's not that easy to I would say it's not that easy to solve a trolley problem even for a human being. It's only meant to uh, give more thought about the actions, and it's actually not supposed to be solved. So and the intention then is to um, like to bring in more conversation or to make us more think about the ethics.
Can we have one more question?
Okay.
So what is the future of robotics?
ഓക്കെ, അത് ഭയങ്കര ബ്രോഡ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആണ്. ഇപ്പം ഫ്യൂച്ചർ ഓഫ് റോബോട്ടിക്സ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ, ഐ മീൻ റോബോട്ട് നോക്കുവാണെങ്കിൽ യു ഹാവ് ത്രീ സിസ്റ്റംസ്. ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് വൺ ഇസ് സെൻസറി സിസ്റ്റം, you have a cognitive system, and you have an action system. So at this stage sensory capabilities of the robots are limited. അതായത് ഇപ്പം ക്യാമറ വിഷൻ ആവട്ടെ, ലൈക്ക് ലിഡാർ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓഡിയോ, അപ്പം ദർ ആർ ലൈക്ക് ഡിഫറെന്റ് പോസിബിലിറ്റീസ് ഓഫ് knowing what the environment is. Other still it's limited because humans are far more superior than robots in terms of that. And even for cognition and action, that's the same case. Maybe in case better നമ്മൾ ഹ്യൂമൻ ബീങ്സ് ചെയ്യുന്ന പല കാര്യങ്ങളും ഇപ്പം ഒരു സിമ്പിൾ സംഭവം എടുത്ത് ഇങ്ങനെ ക്യാച്ച് ചെയ്യാനാണെങ്കിൽ ഐ ഡോണ്ട് ഹാവ് ടു തിങ്ക് അബൌട്ട് ഇറ്റ്, ഇറ്റ്സ് ലൈക്ക് ഇൻറ്റ്യൂട്ടീവ്. പക്ഷെ ഫോർ എ റോബോട്ട് ടു ഡു ഇറ്റ് നീഡ് ടു കാൽക്കുലേറ്റ് how high the thing is going, or when to catch it, or what should be the position of the arm. So a lot of things to decide. So it really depends on how advanced the computation becomes, how advanced algorithms become, how advanced the sensory systems become, and also how advanced the action system become. So അങ്ങനെ നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ we have a lot of possibilities in the future. And ഒരു നമ്മുടെ ലൈക്ക് ഹ്യൂമൻ എവല്യൂഷൻ നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്ക് പല സ്റ്റേജസ് ഉണ്ട്. അതായത് ഇപ്പം ആദ്യത്തെ ഒരു ഇപ്പം അയൺ ഏജ് എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്ന ഒരു ടൈമില് പീപ്പിൾ സ്റ്റാർട്ടഡ് ഇൻവെന്റിങ് ടൂൾസ്, ആൻഡ് they got more sophisticated in terms of their capabilities. So അങ്ങനെ ഫയർ ഇൻവെൻഷൻ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ടൂൾസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങി. they started hunting. So then they gain more like അവരുടെ ഫുഡ് ഇൻടേക്കിൽ ബെറ്റർ ആയി. So our body metabolism improve ആയി. So their cognitive abilities also improve. So അങ്ങനെ cognitive revolution വന്നു. And cognitive revolution വന്നപ്പോൾ we started inventing much more good tools and machines. So അങ്ങനെ we had industrial revolution. Industrial revolution വന്ന് then we started making much more sophisticated machines. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ നമ്മൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്തു, ലൈക്ക് മെക്കാനിക്കൽ കമ്പ്യൂട്ടേഴ്സ് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്തു. മെക്കാനിക്കൽ കമ്പ്യൂട്ടേഴ്സ് പിന്നെ ഇവോൾവ് ചെയ്ത് ഇറ്റ് ബിക്കെയിം ലൈക്ക് സിലിക്കൺ ബേസ്ഡ് ഓർ ലൈക്ക് ചിപ്സ്, അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ലൈക്ക് കമ്പ്യൂട്ടർ സയൻസിന്റെ ഒരു ആ ഒരു റെവല്യൂഷൻ ഉണ്ടായി. ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയൽ റെവല്യൂഷന് ശേഷം ഒരു ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ റെവല്യൂഷൻ ഉണ്ടായി. ആൻഡ് നൗ വി ഹാവ് another wave of revolution which is based on ഈ പറയുന്ന ഒരു information system. So that will give us more capability as human beings, and also give us much more sophisticated tools with more technology. So അതിൽ ഈ റോബോട്ട്സ് ഒരു പാർട്ടാണ്, ആൻഡ് ഇവൻച്വലി ദ റോബോട്ട്സ് വിൽ ഓൾസോ ബിക്കം ഇന്റലിജന്റ്. സോ ഒരു ആർട്ടിഫിഷ്യൽ ഇന്റലിജൻസ് എന്നുള്ളത് വിട്ടിട്ട് ഒരു ആർട്ടിഫിഷ്യൽ ജനറൽ ഇന്റലിജൻസ് എന്നുള്ള ഒരു സ്റ്റേറ്റിലേക്ക് ഇൻ ദ നെക്സ്റ്റ് 50 years ഒക്കെ ഇത് മൂവ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് ഹൗ ദ ഫ്യൂച്ചർ വിൽ ഡെവലപ്പ്. സോ അതാണ് ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു ഒരു ഫ്ലോ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ഗെയിൻ മോർ നോളജ് ആൻഡ് ഗെയിൻ മോർ സ്കിൽസ്. സോ ഒരു ഹ്യൂമൻ ലെവലിലേക്ക് എത്താൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു ലെവലിനെയാണ് ഒരു ജനറൽ ഇന്റലിജൻസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അതായത് ഇപ്പം സിറിക്ക് ഇറ്റ് ഓൺലി ഹാസ് എ നോളജ് ഇൻ എ സ്പെസിഫിക് ഏരിയ, പക്ഷെ ഫോർ എ ജനറൽ ഇന്റലിജൻസ് മീൻസ് ദാറ്റ് സിസ്റ്റം ഷുഡ് ബി കേപ്പബിൾ ഓഫ് ഡൂയിങ് ലൈക്ക് ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് എവറിത്തിങ്. സോ അതാണ് ഇതിന്റെ ഇവല്യൂഷൻ. സോ ദാറ്റ്സ് അനദർ വേവ് ഓഫ് ഒരു information revolution for robots.
Very last question. Very last
Okay.
question. Sir, robotic solutions for robotic solutions for COVID-19 pandemic situation from Ramya Krishnan.
Robotic solutions. So we already have a lot of solutions which are being deployed here and also in even in നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലും I've seen a lot of news about robots which are delivering medicines or like food to patients in hospitals who are in isolation, and we have robots which are making sure of like checking the temperature and making sure that the proper sanitation measures are being done. So and even in Paris, we in our lab we have designed a lot robots for assisting the isolated patients in their rooms, especially if they need social like a companionship. We are providing robots which they can talk to, and so there are endless possibilities, and we can always invent new methods for integrating this technology. For example, ഇനിയുള്ള ഒരു പോസ്റ്റ് പാൻഡമിക് ഒരു ടൈം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ it will have lesser like people will be more vigilant about social interactions, and it's going to change the entire social fabric. So ആ ഒരു ചേഞ്ചിൽ robots will have a big place because a lot of jobs are being automated, because if there is another situation like this, industry doesn't want to depend more on people and get stuck. So more automation will happen, more robots will be used in industries and also in services. So അങ്ങനെ it's an endless possibility, I would say. So we can see a lot of you will see a lot of robots in restaurants or in airports or in public spaces in the near future, I guess.
So I think we are running out of time, but okay, we have got one more question. So, sir, what kinds of sensors are used in robotic industries?
That really depends what are the what are the tasks which you want to do. I mean, you don't need to have all sensors for a simple task. Uh, so basically, you have sensors. I mean, you can compare it to our own systems. So we can see, we can hear, we can smell, we can taste, we can feel touch. So these are the basic modalities of sensing an environment. So we have equivalent sensors for all these capabilities uh, in robots also. Like you have a camera for seeing the environment, and to make it more sophisticated, like suppose we need the robot to see in the dark. In that case, we have infrared cameras, and suppose if we need to get more resolution for that image, we have things such as laser scanners or like lidars, which do a proper 3D scanning of the environment. So and in terms of audio, we have microphones which can listen to the environment, and maybe you can have directional microphones which can sense actually the direction from which the sound is coming. So ഈ പറയുന്ന ഹ്യൂമൻ സെൻസറി സിസ്റ്റം അതിന് equivalent ആയിട്ടുള്ള lot of sensors are being used in robotics, and it really depends what you have to do.
Okay, thank you. Well, we are concluding our session.